I started reading Fourth Wing.
You did? How far are you?
Page 90.
Are you kidding me? Come on.
No. But I have
We
to
agreed yesterday that we were going to read this together, and now you're on page 90.
The type is very large.
You're no fun.
And there are a lot of blank pages and like
No.
Listen. There's like this where
I
it's
don't
like
care. Hello.
It's just like a letter.
To say no. We were supposed to say ready, set, go, and start reading.
I didn't know
together.
that. You didn't tell me that. Okay, well, ready, set, 90 pages, go.
You suck.
But on the whole, I've been a saint to those poor unfortunate souls.
Hello, and welcome to Poor Unfortunate Podcast. I'm Connor Perkins.
And I'm Caroline and
Welcome to all of our returning listeners. It's great having you back here with us. And welcome to all of our new listeners. Thank you so much for hitting play. Please also remember to hit follow or subscribe wherever you're listening to the podcast. That way all of our episodes download to your device. You don't miss out on anything. And then everybody, when we get to the end of the episode or now, wherever you want, you're going to hit 5 stars and leave a written review wherever you're listening to the podcast. So if it's on Spotify, at the end, it'll say like, what did you think of this episode? And that's where you type some stuff in. If you're on Apple Podcasts, you just scroll down. But really, that is like the best thing that you can do to help get the word out about the podcast. It helps us get seen in search results, helps other people find the podcast. So thank you so much for taking the time to do that little good deed or whatever. I don't know. All right, Caroline. So what's new?
First of all, I just want to check. Like, did you all listening actually do that? Did you write your review? Did you?
Oh, shit.
I feel like I need to mix it up a little bit.
Oh, my God.
You know, record
Caroline.
scratch a second, you know?
You caught me
it's
off guard.
It's a new year. Like, did you write the review? Like, two sentences. 2 sentences. That's it. Maybe
it
even
can
one.
Be, I love Caroline and Conor. You can write that.
You could be like, I love it. That's it. All right. I just wanted to say that. I just wanted to get that out of the way.
Wow. You caught me off guard. I was like, when you were like, did you do it? I was like, did I do what?
You panicked. Okay. We have a pretty news-heavy episode, so we'll keep the updates quick for you. So, just to start with some parks news first, both of these pieces of news are Disneyland. So, the Pixar Place Hotel is officially open. So, this is the redesigned Paradise Pier Hotel. It looks absolutely lovely, and I'm sure at this point you have seen that Joe Gardner is playing the freaking piano in the lobby. I mean, and that's all I needed to see.
It's so good. The other big news with the hotel, and I shared this with Caroline, is the hotel music for the Pixar Place Hotel is now streaming and available. It is absolutely amazing. It is like lo-fi covers of Pixar songs, and it is one of the best things to like do some work to, read to, drive
After
to.
Connor suggested it to me, I did work to
Highly
it,
recommend.
And it was amazing. Yeah,
it's so good. The cover of You've Got a Friend in Me is probably maybe my favorite version of You've Got a Friend in Me. I don't know.
So good.
So good.
Also, some Disneyland dining news. So we're getting a lot of new dining in downtown Disney, but I thought this piece of news, Connor, if you didn't know this already, this one I feel like is for us. So they are expanding the Earl of Sandwich.
Oh, girl, I saw this shit. A double level Earl of Sandwich.
Stories.
That is...
And the top level is going to be a gastropub. I mean, that's like our dream come true.
If there was ever a sign that we needed to go to Disneyland, it's them opening the
Earl of
Pixar
Sandwich
Place Hotel
Gastropub.
and the Earl of Sandwich Gastropub.
Yeah, if you're new here, we love the Earl of Sandwich. We just love it. So I feel like for a long time, I've been like, you and I need to go to Disneyland together. I feel like we got to go to Oogie Boogie. Now we need to see Pixar Place, and we need to go to the Earl of Sandwich Gastropub. So just, keep it in mind. I'm
Oh,
manifesting it for this Halloween.
Okay, girl, it's in mind. It's in mind.
And then over to Disney Plus. A Real Bug's Life, narrated by Awkwafina, is now on Disney Plus. I don't like
watched
bugs.
It looks so good.
I saw a little clip and I love her narration, and I'm sure it's very interesting, but I cannot do close-ups of bugs like that, so I shan't be watching.
And we got the finale of Percy Jackson and the Olympians as well.
Yes, which I've heard nothing but good things about.
And then it is award season. Now, I don't know what that necessarily means for the PUAs and how that's going to land in our cycle, but you know what? We'll figure it out.
We always do.
We do have the Academy Award nominations. They are out. The Walt Disney Company received 20 nominations total across all of its studios and subsidiaries. And then just 3 that I'll mention because they're probably the ones we think of the most when we think of Disney. Elemental was nominated for Best Animated Feature. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was nominated for Best Visual Effects. And Best Original Score, we got a nomination for John Williams for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Wish did not make the cut.
Connor and I both purchased Wish to stream because we could not wait for it to come out on Disney Plus. We are going to talk about Wish another time, but just know that says something. I would call us pretty discerning Disney film critics. And we both bought it. So just take that as you will.
I think it was hated on too hard.
Agree.
Unnecessarily.
We'll talk about it. That's all I have for now.
Yeah, that's all I have as well.
Okay.
We're not going to cover a whole lot of Disney news because so much of what this episode is Disney news. So, if you didn't know, we were on strike with SAG-AFTRA and the WGA for a long period of time. SAG-AFTRA was on strike from July 14th to November 9th. So during that time, we couldn't really talk about Disney news. And there was a lot of Disney stuff that was happening. And instead of trying to talk about all of it on our first episode, we were going to reserve it for this Tips and Tricks episode. So we're going to go through some of the Disney news that happened during that time and offer our own little tips, pieces of advice, takeaways from some of this news. Now, as we were going through, we found that we had a lot of things to talk about, that it would probably be so huge of an episode because, the Haunted Mansion film came out, Ahsoka, The Marvels, Loki Season 2, Once Upon a Studio, and in talking about those things as we were preparing, we realized that we may want to revisit some of those in a more extensive way beyond just, a casual mention in this episode. So we're going to save some of those things for full episodes where they may fit a topic as opposed to just sort of giving you a quick rundown here. So if you're looking for those things, just pause. We know that they happened. We're acknowledging them. We're saying hello. We're saying we're going to see you later because most of what we actually have to talk about are things that are parks related. So we chose 10 parks related bits of news that have happened. And we're going to go through just sort of a rundown of what happened, what's the news, what are the takeaways, how we feel about them, and then asking each other a couple of questions that sort of go along with them. And I'll just say right off the top of the bat, a lot of these pertain to Destination D23, which is an event that happened September 8th through 10th. So every other year, Disney holds the D23 Expo, which is their big exposition, convention where they do all their announcements and things like that. And so on their off years, we get this Destination D23, which is an abbreviated check-in sort of thing. So that's what this is. But we got some updates and we got some announcements as well.
Did.
So since we're on Destination D23, let's just go through all of our news from that event.
I love it. So I'm actually going to start with some good news out of D23.
Yeah,
let's do something happy that we like. So at Destination D23, it was announced that the Disney Treasure will be one of the new ships in the Disney Cruise Line fleet, centered around the theme of adventure. This was an interesting choice, considering that we are also going to have a ship called the Disney Adventure.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, sure.
Whatever. I'll take it.
It's fine.
Whatever.
I guess we can't have a treasure-themed ship, so it's fine.
Can you imagine how decadent that would be?
It would be amazing. So So the ship's maiden voyage will be in December 2024. Maybe we'll be on it. Who knows?
No, we will be on it.
Okay.
With these things that are on the ship, we'll be on it,
Okay.
baby.
Yeah. So I was originally just going to talk about 2 of those things, but after I started getting into it, I need to cover kind of all of it because it all sounds incredible. So the biggest thing I think that generated the most buzz is the Haunted Mansion parlor. It's a Haunted Mansion themed
So
bar.
good.
People. So the theming will center around the story of a jovial captain's disastrous dinner with his fiancée. I need to know more. I need to be there. Tell me how he died. Tell me everything.
I love this so much.
Give me the hanging body.
Yes,
I'm ready.
give little violent Caroline a little dead corpse to stare up at.
Please.
Like, please.
Oh my gosh. The design will be modeled after a drawing room from a Golden Age ocean liner, featuring nods to the attraction we love with, the classic purple wallpaper, all of that good stuff. So listen to this. Here is the signature drink. It's a margarita topped with lemon salt foam, presented amidst flavored smoke, containing a secret message that can only be revealed in black light.
Oh, I need that.
It's going to be $30. My mark!
You know what?
$30
I'll
for
bring
sure.
cash. I'll bring cash. It's fine.
And a very nice thing is there is going to be a very generous selection of non-alcoholic drinks as well. One of them is the Ghoulish Delight, which is made with ube fudge, oat milk, and tapioca pearls, garnished with a gummy eyeball and ube glitter.
Ooh,
I'll take that as well.
bae.
And then we have sympathetic libations with blood orange and sour cherry flavors in a souvenir mug. Also, they're
Do we
going to
know
be
what
selling...
the mug looks like?
No, we don't. But I do know.
I mean, obviously,
it doesn't matter. Come on.
It doesn't matter. We're going to
Doesn't
take
matter.
it.
There will also be, you're going to love this, exclusive merch sold aboard the ship, like themed around the parlor. So there's like a mirror, a music box, like all of this like creepy, amazing stuff.
All right.
So,
Well, we're going.
great. We're going. On top of that, we have Plaza de Coco. So I knew that there was going to be a Coco themed dinner show. And I was like, hell
Yeah.
yes. But what I did not know and found out when I was looking this up is that this is a multi-night experience. So this is just something that doesn't exist yet. So,
Oh my God.
yeah.
Like Star Cruiser-esque?
yes, I guess that does kind of exist. But like, it's so cool.
Well, not anymore, babes.
Right? Oh, I forgot about that. Right. So Plaza de Coco is going to be serving Mexican cuisine. And so on the first night that you dine there, you watch Miguel and the town mariachis perform in the Plaza of Santa Cecilia. Then on the second night, the plaza is transformed for a Dia de los Muertos celebration with the whole Rivera family, including Mama Coco. Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh. I want
Brilliant.
that. We're going.
Multi-day? Whoever came up with that idea, give them a raise.
We love a multi-day theater experience.
We do. Oh, we do. Here are some other more quick service things that are going to be on the ship. Jumbo Sweets, a Zootopia-inspired ice cream parlor. Love.
Love it.
Hey Hey Cafe. Oh my gosh. And Jade Cricket Cafe after Cricky in Mulan. Those will also be on board. Along with one of the other sit-down restaurants is World of Marvel, a restaurant that will use quantum technology and include an appearance from Spider-Man. The menu will be inspired by the origins of different superheroes. But we also have 2 other friggin' lounges. So we have Skipper Society, which will be a Jungle Cruise-inspired lounge.
Oh my gosh,
And-
I'm in.
Oh my gosh. And then I love this one too. Periscope Pub, inspired by the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea attraction, makes
I'm
you
in.
feel like you're in a submarine.
I'm there.
Oh
I'm
my
there.
God.
Oh my God.
And then on top of all of this, the Treasure will also be showing the brand new Disney The Tale of Moana stage show, the live action Beauty and the Beast inspired stage show, and Disney Seas The Adventure, which is like a variety show, all different characters. I saw the concept art for the Moana show, and it's like
It looks freaking amazing.
it's so artistically done. Like the baby Moana is a puppet. The actors are playing the role of the sea. There's a huge glowing manta ray like over the size of the stage. Moana's on her boat. It's like it's incredible. It's incredible. We also have a new Aquamouse water coaster on board featuring a brand new Mickey short. And the Aqua Mouse is like, it's a full attraction. Like, this is not a water slide. It's a full attraction. It's absolutely insane. So besides when are we booking our tickets, I have a question.
How much
for
are we
you.
willing to spend? Which is whatever it takes.
The limit does not exist. My question is, should Disney focus on bringing these new kinds of dining experiences to the parks where more people can experience them? Because sure, you could say that they're trying to get folks to pay up to go on the cruise to experience it. But like you said, speaking of the Star Cruiser, that didn't work so well for that. So I feel like these announcements get so much buzz and excitement, and 75% of fans will never even experience them. So what do you think?
Yeah, I feel like the answer is probably in terms of, I don't know if we should bring these things outright to the parks, because there's a lot of stuff that's already in the parks, and like the parks are already crowded enough as is. I feel like what actually could use some love is like hotels. Like, I keep thinking of the Enchanted Rose Lounge in Grand Floridian, because that feels like what one of these like the Haunted Mansion parlor,
That's
it feels like what one of these cruise ship things would be. And it gets so much more traffic than a cruise ship might necessarily get, because it's so accessible to people, even if they aren't staying on property. Someone could come in and just go to the Enchanted Rose Lounge if they wanted like a Disney moment, but without having to like pay to go into a park. They just have to pay for parking at the Grand Floridian or something like that. So I feel like the answer is hotels, and then, like, I don't know, like let's put some more immersion into it. Like, I know that they keep trying to like take the immersion out of the hotels and like make them more like standard and whatnot.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna do that, give us the trade of having like a really, really solid restaurant with cool theming. Like, if you're gonna have the Polynesian and you're going to sort of like wipe a lot of the really overt Polynesian theming out of the rooms, at least give us a restaurant that is like full Polynesian theme. Which, like,
that's what I was
you kind of have in Trader Sam's.
Yeah, and every time I go, I try to sit inside a Trader Sam's, and it is so popular. I cannot ever get a seat inside. And I was thinking about the Coco show, Hoop-de-doo, after all of these years, every time I've been, it's still packed. So there's clearly an appetite for these things outside of the parks.
And I think that I just think that there's like not enough of them, because it's like, if people see, I can do the Hoop-de-doo review, or I can go to Trader Sam's, or I can go to, just the standard hotel bar that I'm staying at. Like, no, they're going to be like, well, let's try and do Trader Sam's. But if we had more options, like, I think it would be a Haunted Mansion parlor, maybe not exactly the same one as the one from the cruise ship, but you could certainly do a nod to a Haunted Mansion parlor lounge at like Port Orleans. And bring in some of the stuff from the Disneyland version. But then the other thing that I think of that I would be like a really good place for us to pull some of these like ideas from cruise ships would be, I'll keep saying it, the theme restaurants. Like, we want our Disney store and
we're
theme
always gonna say this every time we're gonna say
but
it.
Like, for real, they just changed Shop Disney is now back to the Disney store. They're rebranding back to the Disney store. I don't know if that means that we're going to have physical Disney stores again, but let's bring back our Disney stores and attach a theme restaurant. They don't have to, like, we could only have them in like major cities or whatever. Like, maybe New York has one theme restaurant that's like specific, and then there's another one in DC, and then Philadelphia and Kansas City and Chicago and LA and like things like that. And each one could have a different theme restaurant, theme parlor, lounge.
My God, because New York could be enchanted. That would be so cute.
But then also, like, it again allows people to have that little dose of Disney when they can't afford the full ass trip. I'm like, if anything, it just gets them spending more of their money on Disney as opposed to like hoarding it for a while to just sort of like go as much as, like, I don't know. I personally think it's a really good model. And they should talk to us about
ready for it.
I'm going to die on that hill.
We would lead that project. Oh, God.
So for my first thing that I want to pull from Destination D23, mine is what's called Beyond Big Thunder Mountain. So I don't know if you all remember, we kind of touched on it like a little bit when it happened, but back in 2022, it was announced that the Disney Parks division would begin exploring a large area behind Fantasyland and Big Thunder Mountain in Magic Kingdom as a potential area of expansion. Josh D'Amaro spoke of, quote, blue sky concepts, which if you don't know what a blue sky concept is, these are projects that are in the creative and preliminary planning stages, but they don't necessarily mean that they are greenlit or even going to happen. So the plan was to develop this area into themed areas inspired by then Coco, Encanto, and Villains. So at Destination D23, Chief Creative Officer of Disney Imagineering Bruce Vaughn joined Josh D'Amaro on stage to talk about where this blue sky project is headed since he returned to Disney in March. And it was one of the first things he looked at, and planning is continuing for it. They said that the plan for this area is a massive one as they look to tell stories, quote, beyond Big Thunder Mountain, planning on a scale to rival Star Wars Galaxy's Edge and Pandora, the World of Avatar. Vaughn said that he thinks the project, quote, could be the biggest thing we've done in the Magic Kingdom, probably even bigger than New Fantasyland, end quote. They are currently exploring ideas for new attractions, shows, restaurants, and more. So while nothing more has been said about what exactly is going into this area, or if they're still continuing down the road of like Coco and Encanto and things like that, it's incredibly important to note that this Blue Sky project is actually continuing beyond what was announced at the D23 Expo in 2022. It was kind of jarring for people. And I mean, I remember thinking, I don't know, like I didn't make sense of some of the choices, but then I started thinking about it. I'm like, Frontierland into Coco, it's a similar vibe. It's a similar sort of geographical area. So that could transition you. And then Coco, the dead people, if you go across into the world of the dead, that could transition into Villains. And stuff like that. So like I started to understand a little bit of like what the thought process might have been. But either way, when they said this at D23 Expo in 2022, that was more like one of the first times that they were really started to spitball essentially with these blue sky announcements. And they've kind of become a thing under Josh D'Amaro. And the jury's still out as to whether this approach is actually helpful to the process. So I guess I have two questions for you. One, what would you like to see go into this area behind Big Thunder Mountain? Or is this just another opportunity to plug in whatever successful IP is like of the moment? And then the follow-up question, should Disney parks continue this process of announcing very early concepts that aren't even greenlit at grand events like D23? Or is it ultimately just unhelpful and frustrating to everybody?
I mean, the way that you described things leading from Coco into Villain, I'm like, okay, I didn't visualize it, but yeah, I could see Coco being a part of Frontierland. The thing that the thing that I'm the most interested in is definitely Villains.
Yeah, me too.
But the thing that always comes to mind for me is like, how do you make that a thing? Because all of these different villains are from very different worlds, universes. And how do you make that cohesive? I also think, though, I feel like this has a higher likelihood of happening now that Universal Studios has announced
Epic Universe.
Yeah. Because just
they have the Dark Universe area.
Yeah, and they have all of the monsters. Right.
Yeah.
So just like folks accused Disney of speeding up the Avatar process to compete with Harry Potter World, I have a feeling that with this Epic Universe news, we might see the Villains thing actually start moving along. But I always have this feeling about Magic Kingdom specifically where I'm like, when we get very IP specific, I just don't want that to happen to Magic Kingdom. It doesn't make sense to me. It would just be Coco Land? And there are so many Disney films that don't have their own dedicated areas. And like
Snow White and Belle and Ariel all have to share the same little squish area.
Right.
But like Encanto's gonna get a whole land.
Yeah. Like, no. And we've gone in this direction with parks like Hollywood Studios where we're just slapping IP areas onto the park. And I have mixed feelings about that. I'm sure we'll get more into that in this episode as well. But I just don't want to see that happen to Magic Kingdom specifically. Like, that is not what Magic Kingdom is to me.
Yeah. Magic Kingdom is like a place where you create this sort of like baseline thing, like this baseline area in which things can then plug into.
Yeah, like,
So, like
plug Coco into
Frontierland.
Frontierland.
Yeah.
Don't make Coco Land. What?
And like, I feel like Villains is blanket enough that like they could do that, but also if they wanted to, they could just expand Fantasyland and call it like
I could see that
Dark
fitting.
Fantasyland or something like that.
I could be down with Dark Fantasyland. It's just that I would be interested in that. I'm not gonna lie. It just it starts to feel like, I don't know, like stacking on top of the original Magic Kingdom setup that I don't want to change in that way, but okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
kind of like the way, like, because I mean, that's the weirdest thing for me about Disneyland is like you have Disneyland and you've got all of the lands, and then you also have Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah, yeah. And then as far as like the blue sky, like, should these be happening? I mean, I have a feeling that, like, it's interesting you said like that 2022 was sort of the first time that started happening. And it's like no coincidence that it's like that's when social media buzz really started to like, I mean, it happens before 2022, but social media buzz is really dictating a lot of things. And so many companies just want people talking about their shit on social media. And these blue sky concepts achieve that so much. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they end up causing frustration because either folks get frustrated about this idea that was never truly going to happen and they just like teased it for fun. And so people kind of get all worked up for that, or people fall in love with an idea that was never going to happen. And then they have so much disappointment that it's not a thing and will keep bringing it up and like never let it rest. And I don't think that's helping people feel, I'm wondering if like why they did this is to like make people feel a part of the process and make them feel bought in. It doesn't really make me feel bought in.
Yeah, because like I don't necessarily feel like they're actually listening to what we want
Right.
when they do this based off of, I think, like what's performing. Because I think if they actually wanted to, like, why is there no poll that's coming out to people like you and me who are the target people for something
Yeah.
like this to say, if we were to add new lands, what kind of lands would you want to see? Or something like that. Like
Right.
it's almost like they're trying to make us feel like we're part of it, even though
It's
we're not
fake,
part
but
of it
it's
at
fake.
all.
Yeah, it's totally
Because
fake.
if they really wanted to, like, why don't they actually just go back and finish some of the things that they originally wanted
would have
to do?
Beastly
Like,
Kingdom if they were
We would have
listening.
Beastly Kingdom. Like,
and maybe combined with villains, who even knows? Like something
yeah, they
there.
could
I
have
don't
done
know.
that, but I'm like, I don't need a Coco land. If you want to add some
No.
Coco stuff to Frontierland to help transition you out or like into something new, like okay.
Yeah.
But also people were really expecting Coco to go into the Mexico pavilion. I'm just like,
Right.
it just seems like they're not taking some of the more obvious things, and I don't know why. I feel like Villains is the most obvious thing.
Mhm.
And honestly, if they wanted to just designate that whole area just as like a dark fantasy land and like a place for villains, I feel like that would be fine.
And it would still be like a building on top of Fantasyland, which would be okay for me because it's an existing Magic Kingdom land and I don't want that to change. So
Yeah.
if we're expanding on
And-
it, it's all good.
And I mean, the only unfortunate part is like it would be fun if you could sort of like have some sort of entrance near the Haunted Mansion.
Yes.
to bridge you
Yes,
over.
give it to me. I love that. I love it.
And they could have like some sort of Nightmare Before Christmassy sort of thing if they wanted to add
Oh
Jack
my
Skellington in or
gosh.
something like that.
See, all it takes is a little.
All it takes is listening to Poor Unfortunate frickin' podcast, people.
So let me talk about something very related.
Okay.
So speaking of blue skying, thank you for laying out for everyone what that means. So let's talk about the Dinoland Reimagining Blue Sky presentation from Destination D23. So during a celebration of Disney parks, experiences, and products yesterday, today, and tomorrow presentation, Josh Jamaro introduced the possibility of the transformation of Animal Kingdom's Dinoland USA into a land representing the tropical Americas. the northern portion of South America into Central America. After featuring photos of South America and concept art of a central square for the land, there was a pan in the concept art from the main square towards Casita from Encanto sitting on the periphery. Next, the audience could see a building in the reimagined land that is clearly the former home of Dinosaur, accompanied by the Indiana Jones theme song, indicating that the Disneyland ride Indiana Jones Adventure will be coming to Walt Disney World. A relatively easy transition considering the two rides share a track system. As this was a Blue Sky concept share rather than an actual announcement, that was all we got. I mean, speaking of like why should we keep doing these? This one irritated me in particular because it was just like we barely used our words. Like, just use your words.
We're like,
tell me. Just say something.
It's very winky. It's like
it is I don't know like the way that he was addressing the audience was like it was an audience of like 5-year-olds. Something about it just rubbed me the wrong way. This isn't the first time, however, that a Dino Land transformation was teased at a D23 event. In 2022, Moana and Zootopia were apparently in the running to replace Dino Land. Zootopia and Animal Kingdom. Okay. It makes sense to me. It fits Animal Kingdom just like Avatar does. Though I could see a case being made for perhaps Hollywood Studios, like I said, with the way that park is going, where it's like, here's an IP and here's its land. And it's like becoming a hodgepodge, but it is what it is. But during the 2022 Expo, Jennifer Lee spoke about taking guests through the various districts of Zootopia. First of all, that would require so much space to actually achieve in a not phoned in way. But also, we've started talking about this already. Do we need that much Zootopia? I could be convinced, and I think you're going to talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah.
But to me, when it comes to Animal Kingdom, the beauty of Animal Kingdom is some kind of connection to reality. So yeah, we have Avatar. There isn't really a connection to reality, but it connects to real issues of conservation, etc. Yes, I was all for Beastly Kingdom. Not a ton of reality connection there.
But it was part of the original intention of the park.
Exactly.
Which was animals real, imagined, and
yeah. And that theme was more, we're starting to talk about the same things. It's very fascinating. Wide-ranging and broad than Zootopia, which to me is ultimately more of a story about prejudice than it is about animals.
That's why I firmly believe that Zootopia, if you were to actually do that thing, Rafiki's Planet Watch, because you could just make the train ride.
That's exactly what I pictured.
Train ride.
That is exactly what I pictured.
And it's like, if you did that, that's totally fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I pictured the same thing. Okay, so Moana also has a connection to nature, so fits the ethos of Animal Kingdom. But is this the ultimate fit for her? I always loved the idea of a Moana-heavy Adventureland. Using Moana as a framing device to explore animals of the sea could be great, but it feels like the Moana edition that they were hinting at would be more IP-focused than using it as a framing to present us the animals of the ocean. In the Blue Sky concept art from 2022, it looked like there was some sort of water flume ride, a Dumbo-esque ride that looks like it's Kakamora inspired. It's just not about, it didn't feel like it's about nature. But back to this year's Blue Sky. I truly do not believe Encanto belongs in Animal Kingdom, beyond nods to the film, maybe in the theming of the land. I do not believe a Casita attraction ties into the themes of Animal Kingdom, which is, now it's not the tagline that you just said. It's okay. Now Animal Kingdom is like it's becoming muddied. Now it's our connection to nature. Sure, Antonio can talk to animals in Encanto. That is a far too tangential connection.
Yeah, it would be like what? The only thing we can do in Casita is like go into Antonio's room.
No,
and that brings
absolutely
us into
not.
Animal Kingdom?
No.
I don't know.
And do not get me started on Indiana Jones. Don't. During these Blue Sky teases, it feels like parks execs are trying to incept us into thinking that adventure has always been one of the themes of Animal Kingdom. And while I feel like the spirit of adventure was infused in the original concept of the park, this new definition of adventure does not feel tied to nature and animals. Indiana Jones, no. It feels like
Indiana Jones is in Hollywood Studios.
Yeah, it just, what? And we're going to have 2 Indiana Jones, please. It feels like an excuse to let any Disney IP into that park because there's space to work with and we can call anything an adventure. So here's what I want to know from you. 2 questions. 1.
Oh, yikes. Okay.
What is the future of Animal Kingdom? Does this proposed update make the park more Nature Kingdom than anything else? How much should the original integrity of the park or of a park stay the same? And 2, should Disney just build a new park to house newer hits like Encanto, Zootopia, and Moana? This is a heavy one. It's a lot.
I'm fearful of the future of Animal Kingdom because I'm watching it go down a similar path that Hollywood Studios has gone down, which Hollywood Studios we have been able to be slightly more fluid with because the concept of a Hollywood lot means that there are a lot of things that share a space that don't necessarily make sense. Like a bunch of weird things all clustered together sharing a space. That's kind of what makes it fun.
Yeah.
So to have a hodgepodge sort of thing in Hollywood Studios, we've been able to let them sort of slide with that a whole lot. Animal Kingdom had a very, very, very clear intention of what that park actually was, much like Epcot. Yeah. And in a way that I am seeing them try and fix Epcot to go back to what it was originally and try and streamline it, it feels like Animal Kingdom, they're just trying to fill out. It feels like they've never seen, they're finally like, okay, we've got to figure out how to make Animal Kingdom a full day park and missing what the original intention was. And I think ultimately that started when they added Pandora.
Yeah, I know.
Because that gave them an excuse not to build Beastly Kingdom, and then it gave them an excuse not to do the dinosaur section of the park the way that they had intended on doing it when the park was conceptualized. So, I mean, I do think that the purpose of a park can change. In some ways, I think that Epcot has sort of changed, and they've done a nice job of sort of taking where it was and what it was originally intended, and then what it sort of became, and fusing them together in a way that is clear and makes sense. And I think ultimately, if they keep going this way with Animal Kingdom, they will have to do the same thing. It feels like Animal Kingdom is right now where Epcot was in like the early 2000s, like 2010s.
Yeah.
And Hollywood Studios is just so far gone. It's its own thing. Still fun. I had a fuck ton of fun.
I did too. So that's what makes me think like, are we being too hard-assy about this? But I don't know. I feel pretty strongly that things are becoming hodgepodge.
I don't know. I don't know what the future of Animal Kingdom is. I think if they keep going this direction, they have to reconcile the intention of the park sooner rather than later in order to get people to buy in. Because otherwise, the people who love Animal Kingdom and who continue to go to Animal Kingdom and who have always seen it as a full day park, they're going to lose them. And the live animals will become secondary to the people who are just there chasing an attraction. And ultimately, the care of the animals and trying to provide attractions, the balance, they won't be able to find the balance anymore. And I'm fearful that what will end up going is the animals.
Yeah. And a South and Central America land, I'm all for it.
I'm all for that. We have Asia, we have Africa, South and Central America. That makes total sense. If we want to do that.
That's a clean ad. Like I'm all for that, but not.
And if we're sacrificing Dino Land,
which breaks my little heart. It breaks my heart.
I'm like, but it does make sense. What it does is it makes Avatar stick out even more like a sore thumb.
It does. Yes, it does.
That is the only thing that really has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So then my other question is sort of kind of what you asked me earlier. Should Disney just build a new park to house these newer IPs?
Yes.
Encanto, Zootopia, Moana.
Yes.
But what
and
is it?
I think Universal beat them to it.
Yeah.
I think it was Epic Universe.
Yeah, it's like adventure.
I think what Disney wanted to do was a park that would allow you to immerse yourself wholly in a space that is unified by some sort of starting point, which is, I think, what Hollywood Studios is becoming.
Right.
And they're trying to retrofit that. And Universal was like, rather than try and retrofit something, let's just build a new park. And so the idea is so clear. You start in the Celestial Park, and then you go through these portals that fully immerse you into various universes. And if I was building a new park, that's what I would build, because everyone wants immersive stuff. But how do you make immersive things feel that way, but
Kingdom
also
Hearts
multiple
or
things
something
living together?
You know what I mean? Like use it as a framer. I don't know. But also, to be fair, Universal's already like Islands of Adventure. It's kind of a mess. Like it's like Harry Potter and Dr. Seuss and superheroes. It's a mess. So they can get away with a little bit more.
And they're always going to have like every theme park or whatever is going to have like their messy park.
Yeah.
We just have to watch it because we don't need Disney to have 2 out of the 4 in Florida being the messy park.
True.
I'm still not convinced that Pandora is actually like a full-on return on investment.
I'm torn.
It's gorgeous, but I'm still not convinced that if they built that and it was Beastly Kingdom instead of the Blue People,
I mean, please,
that people would be we did a whole episode. That's how we started this fucking season.
Also, that's how we started this season. That is terrifying. Don't ever say that to me again. I mean, also, side plug, we have a t-shirt that pertains to this, so visit our merch shop.
We do.
Oh,
Dragons
wow.
are forever, Navi are not.
This topic stresses me out. It stresses me out a little bit.
Because honestly, if we were doing like Central America, South America sort of thing, the obvious thing to use is Up.
Right.
Up is already there.
Right.
Paradise Falls is in South America.
Right. Thank you. Yes.
It's about exploring. It has that adventure quality, but it's also about wildlife and nature.
That is yes. Hello.
So, like,
we already have Kevin walking around Animal Kingdom.
Yeah. So
the
like, just give him a place.
Clear. Oh, please.
Park the blimp. I don't know. Put a ride inside the blimp. I don't know. Like,
give me the talking dogs. Yes. Yes.
So my next Destination D23 that I'm going to talk about, kind of going back to like where you started this with some of the lounges. So a Pirates of the Caribbean lounge in Magic Kingdom. So announced at the Destination D23 event by Chris Beatty, a Pirates of the Caribbean themed lounge will be coming to Adventureland in Magic Kingdom. Disney says this first of its kind experience will extend the story of Pirates of the Caribbean. And while no time frame or opening date has been announced, Imagineers are currently in the design process. And this is what Chris Beatty said in the announcement. Quote, "We are developing a brand new tavern, some of the regulars might call Watering Hole, where pirates of all ages gather to tell their tales. And I hear there's a certain macaw that we haven't seen in a while. Anybody remember the Barker bird that used to be out in front of pirates? Well, he's taking up residence here in a new spot, and you know he loves to come in and spin a yarn or two with guests. So it's going to be great seeing him again. Look, these designs are really, really early in the process, but we're really looking forward to where this is headed. And as soon as we know more, we'll run up our flag and share it with you." End quote. Cute. So based on the concept art and the information shared, it's speculated that this will occupy what is currently Tortuga Tavern. But this has led, at least over on Blog Mickey, to a wider conversation as to whether or not this tavern will actually serve rum or any alcohol. Magic Kingdom only serves alcohol at certain table service restaurants and doesn't have a bar like Oga's Cantina in park like Disneyland. Disney currently has a rule of no, quote, walking drinks. So it's interesting to see what will happen here, as these uncharted waters will for sure have bigger implications on Magic Kingdom. And so my question to you, Walt Disney originally did not want alcohol to be present in the parks. Do you think the shift to allowing alcohol in the parks, specifically Magic Kingdom, is having a negative impact on the guest experience in that park?
What a good question. It's interesting you ask this, because I was working at my corporate job today, working in the office, and I heard some folks that I don't really know across the office talking about how someone had just been to Disney World. And I only caught dribs and drabs of the conversation, but all they were talking about was drinking around the world. And it just someone said, oh yeah, I've been to Disney World and I went to all the other 3 parks, but I didn't go to Epcot. And someone was like, but that's where you do the drinking. And I was like, that's not what Epcot is. Okay. And don't get me wrong. I went there on my bachelorette and I stopped at a bunch of places and had some drinks. I didn't get like twisted, but it's a fine line because I feel like I do appreciate the moments when the parks age along with people like us who started going when we were kids. Now we're adults. Side note, dry January has had me thinking about alcohol. I just finished dry January. And no, adulthood is not like, and alcohol are not tied. Like if you don't drink, like it doesn't mean anything. Like, so tying those 2 things, I don't mean it that way, but I do appreciate when they take things that we enjoyed and mature it a little bit. So, rum in the Magic Kingdom. I feel like I don't feel like it's a Pirates of the Caribbean tavern without rum.
Right.
And I think there will be I think there's plenty of people in the world who don't drink, don't want to drink in this situation, so that it's not like we're not having a park filled with people who are filled up with rum. I'll say this. When I went to Oga's Cantina, we went early in the morning because that was the only time we could get. And so I had only had a little bit of breakfast and I had that cocktail and I was buzzed. It had alcohol in it. I mean, so if that happens to the wrong person, can people get debaucherous? Yeah, but if there's it just like with Hollywood Studios, yes, there's other places where you can get alcohol there. But if it's you can get rum, like a hard liquor in the Pirates bar, I think it's okay. I know it can be a slippery slope.
I was going to say about Oga's Cantina because it sort of walks a fine line between being family oriented, but then also being geared more towards adult. And I was like, is that achievable in the Magic Kingdom though, which is so oriented towards children and families? Is there a world where, I mean, in Disneyland, Oga's Cantina is there. So I guess it has been figured out, but I don't know.
I think it works with the model of there's this one place.
Yeah.
So we've got Oga's Cantina and we'll have the Pirates Tavern. And that's it.
It's not a drop-in place where
Right. Go with the same concept. You got to spend time there. It's hard to get in. Commit.
Yeah.
And have it be expensive because I couldn't buy more than one cocktail at Oga's Cantina. So that's a way to do it also. Have it be a full experience that you really got to pay up for. And that's a way to control it. Especially because I saw they've been having this Pirates band, outside Pirates singing pop songs in the style of sea shanties. And I just I'm put them in the tavern, make it a full drawn out experience so people aren't dropping in, chugging a rum and leaving, you know?
Yeah.
Food for thought.
It's
when they announced it, I didn't think about that. I think I assumed that there would be liquor. Yeah.
I assumed that there would be liquor as well, but I'm also the one thing that Magic Kingdom is lacking is it doesn't have a bar. Even the places that serve alcohol, they're table service. It's not a bar. So,
and I feel Magic Kingdom is lacking, dining-wise, Magic Kingdom is lacking for me. So I guess I'm always going to advocate for adding variety, adding cocktails. I hope I'm not wrong.
Well, we'll see if a spike in hub violence happens, we'll know it's because of you, Caroline. Boozing up all the adults as they head to watch Happily Ever After.
Oh, God.
The next thing that we have to close out are things that are specific to Destination D23. So at Destination D23, they announced that they would be reimagining Test Track at Epcot. So Test Track officially opened on March 17th, 1999 after replacing World of Motion. And for those who don't know, Test Track, it's a high-speed slot car ride that takes guests through a series of test simulations used for automotives. So in Disneyland, with the addition of Cars Land, Radiator Springs Racers follows much of the same blueprint for the attraction with just a new story. Test Track was originally sponsored by General Motors, and then in 2012, it closed for refurbishment when sponsorship changed to Chevrolet. And in this version, the current one, guests design their own car in the queue, and then that information carries with them on board the ride. And so as the vehicle goes through the test simulations, guests can see how well their design performed, which is like a fun, kind of
Yeah.
cool thing to
Mhm.
do. 10 years later, it's a little dated now.
Wow, I can't believe it's been 10 years already.
Yeah.
Yeesh.
At Destination D23 this past year, it was announced that Test Track, not Spaceship Earth, as people were hoping to hear an update about, would be getting revamped. With Chevrolet remaining the sponsor, Imagineers are going back to the original World of Motion attraction for inspiration to bring in the next iteration of Test Track. And so if you don't know World of Motion, that was an opening day attraction at Epcot that told the story of human transportation through time. So guests would board Omnimover vehicles and go through scenes with audio animatronics and projection effects of history's greatest achievements in transportation, from the invention of the wheel to present day and beyond, where they would do this Pepper's Ghost thing and that you would see yourself inside a futuristic car and things like that. The concept art for Test Track 3.0, as theme park tourist notes, suggests that this version will have neither the industrial warehouse vibe nor the Tron vibe that it currently has. The scene it seems to depict, which is the switchbacks or the responsiveness test, depending on your preferred version of the ride, has been upgraded from the plywood trees that we had in Test Track 1.0 to laser trees in Test Track 2.0. Now they're real trees, suggesting we might be able to expect more traditional dark ride things. All in all, there's not much that's known about what is in store for the next version of Test Track, but with the greater overhaul of Epcot and its presence in the World Discovery section of the park, we could see some pretty significant changes for this ride. Test Track is a ride that for many people is a must-do attraction, and for others it's skippable if they've been on it before. What do you think we would need to see in this refurb to keep the ride relevant to the changing technology while enticing fans of the ride and those who typically don't to return?
Oh, wow.
And then I have a follow-up question.
Okay. I'm leaning towards, and this would make it not really Test Track anymore. Will they be changing the name of it?
I don't know.
This would make it not exactly Test Track anymore, but I think the thing that will pull people in who skip Test Track is some sort of story.
Yeah.
Test Track for me is a must-do.
1.0 had some story to it.
It did.
In that,
you're a crash
in that
test
pre-show
dummy.
with that, yeah.
Which I kind of love.
When that lady put the crash test on, loaded that onto the
traumatizing.
thing, I shat my pants.
Oh, but I remember the first time I went on Test Track watching that pre-show, and I was terrified.
I'm like, I'm going to break my neck on this ride.
So maybe it's fear factor. Maybe that's what it is.
Maybe.
Some sort of fear factor, not exactly, but maybe we're on to something, is like something, maybe some sort of element of the ride. I guess they have this now where it's like sort of different every time, where it's like, yeah, you're finding out if the car you designed, tested successfully, how well it did, whatever. Maybe some sort of changeable element to this with a story of some kind. Because I think if we're keeping the track intact, I think it's a good amount of thrill. I mean, I'm a baby, I can acknowledge, but I do feel like even if you're a roller coaster lover, it's still like there's some fun zoomies to be had on Test Track. So I don't think that anything in terms of that is missing for people.
Right. But I also think of like Radiator Springs Racers, and like I feel like that's a better version of Test Track, and I think you're right. It's because of their story.
Right. I agree with you. I love Radiator Springs Racers. I mean, I love them both. But Radiator Springs Racers, I want to go back because I'm like, oh, I wasn't really looking at that scene in Luigi's garage. Like, what was that? So I want to go back.
There's animatronics, and there's
animatronics, and there's actually, it has both, because you're trying to win the race and you don't know if you're going to win the race each time.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. And Radiator Springs Racers has already solved it. That's interesting. And it also has beautiful landscapes, which maybe this will have, especially if we're getting rid of the warehouse feel, which again, I'll miss in its own way.
And so my follow-up is there's this trend with Epcot to be moving more toward the realm of nostalgia for the older intentions of the park. Do you think this is the right move for a park that is so much about looking forward? Like, how much of World of Motion, how much of looking backward should they include?
Okay, so we're solving for it a little bit because it's no longer called Future World, but you make a great point.
Yeah.
My instinct is to say it's okay because, number one, Epcot was Walt's baby that he never got to see. And so I feel like hearkening back to that is a way to pay tribute to him in a really beautiful way. And I like the idea of revisiting old parks concepts for today's audiences. I think that's a really smart idea. And based off of everything that we've been discussing, where we're just like throwing IPs and blah, 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 I'm all for going back to the roots. Is it a little like, is there a clash there? Like you said, we're trying to look forward. There's a clash. But I like going back, again, go back to the root of the park. Go back to the thesis of the park. And I feel like in this case, being nostalgic does that. So I'm for it.
Okay.
These are good questions. This is juicy.
Yeah. We're asking the big questions.
We are asking the big questions.
I'm like,
I don't know.
What's happening to Animal Kingdom? Go.
Okay, so that wraps up our Destination D23 portion. So let me go to a piece of Disneyland news. So on August 31st, the Pacific Wharf area of California Adventure in the Disneyland Resort reopened as San Francisco Square, a tribute to the fictional combination of San Francisco and Tokyo from the film Big Hero 6. The change was first announced at the 2022 D23 Expo. So a little bit of history on Pacific Wharf if you're not familiar. Pacific Wharf opened in 2001 along with the rest of California Adventure as a district of the Golden State Land, which also included these districts: Grizzly Peak Recreation Area, Bountiful Valley Farm, Condor Flats, the Bay Area, and Golden Vine Winery. Pacific Wharf was themed after the fishing ports and Cannery Row of Monterey, California, with a little bit of San Francisco influence as well. The district's main attraction was the Boudin Bakery Tour, where guests could learn how the bakery's famous sourdough bread was made and even taste a sample. The area also housed Ghirardelli, ice cream, chocolate, another source of free samples in the park, Pacific Wharf Cafe, incredible soup and bread bowls, love, love, love. So Pacific Wharf was always just more of a place to eat and to vibe more than anything else. The official Disney Parks blog description for San Francisco Square hints at the desire to combine the theming of San Francisco from Big Hero 6 with the existing Monterey-inspired theming and eateries. It says, San Francisco Square will transport you to the not-too-distant future in a fictional mashup of two iconic cities, San Francisco and Tokyo. As the tech industry began to emerge and the local fishing trade fell on hard times, the entrepreneurs came together to reinvent the seaside canneries into a vibrant, multicultural district of neighborhood restaurants and small businesses where you'll be able to eat and shop. So, side note, the Cannery Row vibe that existed in Pacific Wharf, that isn't part of San Francisco in the Big Hero 6 movie. So we're really trying to make something happen that wasn't happening in the movie. I think that's the main issue that people are sort of taking with this, but we'll talk more about that in a moment. So San Francisco Square keeps intact all of the Pacific Wharf dining locations with some slight variations. The bakery tour remains. The Pacific Wharf Cafe became Aunt Cass Cafe, combining the sourdough bread of its predecessor with Asian-inspired dishes. Pacific Wharf's beer truck has become the Port of San Francisco Cerveceria with an outdoor beer garden. Ghirardelli, Cochina Cucamonga, and Lucky Fortune Cookery all remain intact from Pacific Wharf, with Rita's Baja Blenders becoming Rita's Turbine Blenders, just sort of building out the story. There is a turbine in San Francisco, and Rita's the person who runs it, trying to make it all make sense. And all of the theming has changed to reflect all of these places' existence in the alternate reality of San Francisco. So, for example, the mural in Ghirardelli now depicts San Francisco instead of San Francisco. The eateries all received new menu items, some of them Big Hero 6 themed. There's a Baymax macaron, and there's a Baymax friggin' sourdough loaf, and it's absolutely delightful. The biggest change to the area is the added Hero and Baymax meet and greet outside the Hamada Bot Shop. The land is now also home to the San Francisco Makers Market for shopping. In terms of the theming, so the entrance to the land is now the San Francisco Gate Bridge. Facades have been painted and signs have been adjusted to reflect the new setting. There's hanging lanterns, etc., etc. But a commenter on an article in the Disney Parks blog about San Francisco Square really had me thinking. They said that they wish Disney had hired a cultural consultant for the Japanese elements of the district's design. They pointed out inaccuracies in some of the Japanese signs and concerned that the San Francisco Gate Bridge reflects torii-like structures, which are sacred symbols in the Shinto religion. So my question about this is this. Actually, I have many. So let's start with that topic.
Okay.
How do we feel about overlays like this versus actual transformations of land that may take more time but might be more intentionally done?
I think an overlay works when it works. This is an awful answer. I think an overlay works when it works.
Yeah.
And it doesn't when it doesn't. Like, when you're saying this to me, one of the things that's like driving me a little bit nuts, and granted, I've never been to California Adventure, but it feels like they have been removing the California part of
I have
California
a question.
Adventure.
Okay, so let me pose the question to you right now then.
Okay.
I'm really asking you the big ones. Is Disney's California Adventure becoming something else?
Yes.
How long until the park can no longer keep that name? Do the pieces of the park that remain California themed feel out of place already?
I think, yes, it's becoming something else. And I think actually bringing San Francisco into it puts them backward from the direction that they were going. I think the way that they've embraced Pixar in general in that park, like this whole time that I'm thinking, I'm like, oh, if you're going to do an overlay, and given that you've already got like Pixar Pier and everything like that, and it's already like Monterey, why wouldn't you theme it like something with Finding Dory, like Marine Life Institute, which is like modeled after the Monterey Bay Aquarium?
Yeah.
Like, why? And it felt like the reason they're doing that is because they were like, oh, people liked Big Hero 6, and also because of the bridge as like being like an iconic thing, and to hearken to the roots of the park being California with the San Francisco aspect. But I'm like, I actually think that that does a disservice to hearken back to the California nature of the park, because basically that park right now is Pixar and Marvel.
But then there's like, it's Pixar, Marvel, and then the remaining pieces that are California are Grizzly River Run, the raft ride, Soarin', and then technically Hollywood Land.
Yeah.
So it's like, and the main street.
Yeah. Which I'm just like, I don't know. There's also something kind of weird about going to a California park when you're already in California.
I mean, we'll do an episode on that at one point as well. But don't get me wrong. I love so many of the attractions in California Adventure. So I'm like,
but that's also probably because you're a visitor. Like if you're from California, you're like, okay, why am I going to this place? Why I could just go to Monterey or something like that. I don't know. But I think the park is absolutely becoming something else. I don't think that they have much longer until they have to rebrand the park.
That is just that's so wild.
Because it's not like Hollywood studios where you can hodgepodge it and you don't really have to say anything different, because a Hollywood studio is already inherently a hodgepodge of stuff. California Adventure is a very clear title, and when there's no California left, like, what the hell are you doing? Or like, if they wanted to do a nod to San Francisco, why didn't they just put in Inside Out stuff? Inside Out takes place in San Francisco.
Yeah.
There's so many more obvious choices, I think, than, and don't get me wrong, I would love to see San Francisco. I'm like, I think it looks beautiful. I'm like, I think it's so clever. But to occupy this space, like, what a waste to do Big Hero 6 and not even give it an attraction.
Yeah, I think it's like people want to meet and hug Baymax, which is real. So they're trying to do that. And I think they're also just trying to sell the Baymax food. because that's a big social media hit. And I think they were just trying to get it in there somehow.
Well, it shows, and it's not going to age well. Because
Yeah.
ultimately, they're going to have to change that part of the park because it doesn't fit.
Right.
Right
And-
now, that park is becoming the other studios that Disney owns.
Yeah. The other question that I have, we've basically touched on this before, but if there's any point about this we haven't made. What are your thoughts on the way Disney's infusing IP into IP-less areas? What is the thing that makes it successful versus feeling forced? It's starting to feel like we're not going to have any parts of the parks without IP soon enough. And how do you feel about that?
It makes me sad because it gave us something to love that's specific only to the parks. It gave us a reason to go to the parks as opposed to like just watch a movie, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like I go
I
to the
agree.
parks to see the Enchanted Tiki Room because it's the only place I
Right.
can see the Enchanted Tiki Room.
Right.
I think they're going to infuse IP into everything that they possibly can. And I don't agree with it.
I don't either. It doesn't
And-
make it timeless.
No. And I think to do something so immersive is just like, it's such a risk because it's not a risk when you do Star Wars because Star Wars has already cemented itself as timeless.
Mhm.
Star Wars has had 50 years to sort itself out. And like when we're building an entire land to Encanto is only a couple years old. We don't know the timelessness of this movie. We don't know if in like
Mhm.
25 years we're going to be like, this is offensive as fuck. And like
Yeah.
now we have to tear it down. I don't think that Disney needs to put IP into every single thing. What they do need to do is they need to start pulling the threads out to get to the overarching idea. And it feels like they're honing. It feels like everyone is buying so much into immersion right now
Mhm.
that they're missing the things that's going to make it last. Otherwise, they're going to have to keep redoing it
Mhm.
all the time. And actually, this kind of leads me into my next one, which I think is kind of like an answer to this problem in some ways.
Ooh.
And that is Journey of Water, inspired by Moana in Epcot.
Yeah.
So Journey of Water opened on October 16th, 2023, after a soft opening on July 25th, 2023. It was originally set to open in 2021 as part of the 50th anniversary celebration of Walt Disney World, but due in part to the COVID-19 pandemic, it was delayed and then pushed to the Disney 100 celebration. So it's inspired by the characters and the story of Moana. Journey of Water, it's a walk-through attraction that is located in the area that was previously Innoventions West as part of the area that's now being called World Nature. In a series of gardens, interactive fountains, water features, sculptures, and lighting, the walkthrough leads guests from the center plaza toward the Seas Pavilion as they learn about the water cycle. Disney Imagineer Zach Ridley shared this statement with Gizmodo.com, quote, "For Journey of Water, the idea is really celebrating the cycle. You actually get a chance to meet water the same way Moana meets her friend water in the film. And we have some really fun experiences as you move through this trail that are totally unique, invented for this. But the underlying subject is really the importance of preserving water, like the cycle of water. The fact that all water is essentially finite, and it's important for us to understand its role and to preserve it as a resource, so we're able to use elements from Moana's story to do that. But the Epcot story is about water and its conservation. That idea is rooted in real ideas, real things that inspire us, but then actually take you into that experience. That's what we think the unique space of Epcot can bring to life," end quote. So the attraction has been met with a lot of praise, with many guests noting how true to the essence and intention of Epcot it is after previously being apprehensive about Moana joining this park in particular. Journey of Water currently is a standby attraction. It has no individual lightning lane option. They utilize a virtual queue during the soft opening, which they have said they will also use during periods of high demand. And it's also become a place where people can meet Moana in the park near the entrance of the attraction. So my question to you, with the new overhaul of Epcot and the addition of Moana, the presence of popular Disney IP in the parks, that's becoming more and more of a thing. Kind of the question that you literally just asked me. what advice would you give Imagineers as they continue to develop Epcot in this new way by putting IP into stuff? Like, what is the takeaway from this attraction?
Ooh, that's a good question. Ooh, okay. Let me think.
Like, this attraction, to many people, was not seen as something that would work, but it's working and it's winning people over. And so what is the takeaway from it? Good and bad.
I feel like this isn't super eloquent, but as you were describing it, I think I was one of the people who, when they first announced Journey of Water, I was like, like Moana and Epcot, like why is this happening? But then you're describing, the way that it touches on conservation. And I'm like, okay, I'm thinking about it in the same area as the Seas with Nemo and Friends. And I'm not upset that Nemo's there. And then we have Living with the Land, which doesn't have IP. I freaking love Living with the Land. Same idea, conservation, working with nature. I would almost say like that they should use a trick of like, can it be Venn diagrammed and grouped with other things already in that land, if that makes sense? Like, what are the connecting threads to other things that already exist in Epcot that like, okay, there's been talk about, is the Seas with Nemo and Friends going to last forever? So let's go with Living with the Land. I pray that it will last forever. You never know, of course. But it's a classic Epcot attraction. And there's very strong connecting threads there. I'd say make a Venn diagram, and there should be plenty of things in the middle between the new attraction you're thinking of and a classic Epcot attraction.
Oh my God, like they could add a Bug's Life to Living with the Land and like let the bugs narrate the story.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Like that could work. I think you're right. I think it's like, can you use a Disney IP to tell an original story of the ride or of the attraction or of the thing? Like, we're using Moana to tell the story of water as you are physically going towards the Seas Pavilion. Like, it feels very fluid, where it's like Moana has a relationship where she gets to meet water, and this whole aspect of like meeting water like Moana meets water.
Yeah, that's the difference between.
That's working.
Yeah, and going back to us talking about Moana in Animal Kingdom, like that's the difference between like a land with a Moana log flume and a land where Moana helps us learn about creatures of the ocean. There's a huge difference between those things, but they both involve the IP.
Yeah.
That's the way.
And like that, that's why Up, I think, would work in that sort of like Central America thing, because we can use the characters of Up to tell real stories about animals that exist in the location that is there.
In Animal Kingdom and Epcot, the IP should be used to elevate the theme. Should that happen everywhere? Yeah. I feel like Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios, you can plop things in a little bit more, and the characters can be the main attraction.
And I think that's what is not working in California Adventure is that the original idea, they have pulled almost all of the original idea out with adding Marvel and Pixar and things like that. So to try and use an IP like San Francisco to elevate an existing theme, well, that existing theme isn't there anymore. San Francisco actually would have worked better if California Screamin' was still there and not the Incredicoaster.
Right. And they dug themselves into a hole where there's into a hole in the way that the parks are moving now, where there are only so many IPs that can elevate the theme of California. So
right.
You're stuck.
The reason why IP isn't working in that area is because there is no centralized theme in that park anymore. It's just like, this is where we're going to put all of the stuff that we don't know how to make sense or fit into one of the existing lands. But they need to figure out what those existing lands are in the way that I think that's what's been really successful about the Epcot overhaul is they have very clear ideas. This is World Discovery. This is World Nature. This is World Celebration. This is World Showcase. And so like, these are all the stories that are inspired by and that inspire our real world in the countries of the world.
Yeah.
Do I wish that Frozen Ever After had some sort of element where it talks about Norway as opposed to just Arendelle? Yeah. Do I wish that we were using Frozen 2 property to like explain Nordic mythology? Yeah, that feels Right.
Yeah, right. Elevate rather than take over.
Yeah.
I'm excited to experience Journey of Water. I still do have that gut feeling of like, too much IP, because I had this feeling even as a kid, and I don't really know why, of loving being in a park that was just its own thing, that wasn't connected to Disney
Yeah.
films. I loved it even then. It's not just an adult feeling of like wanting a more, mature experience. So I'm
There's
interested.
something cool about seeing Belle with the Eiffel Tower in the background, where it's like, it's like she's part of our world.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Rogers the Musical, shall we? I feel like this is something that I kind of learned a lot about just now because I kind of let it slip through my fingers during the strike. So, a 30-minute, one-act version of Rogers the Musical opened at the Hyperion Theater in Disney's California Adventure on June 30th, 2023, and ran through the summer until August 31st. It follows the life of Steve Rogers, aka Captain America, from the 1940s until the events of Avengers Endgame. The show replaced Frozen live at the Hyperion, and nothing has replaced Rogers, and nothing has even been announced for that theater for 2024. So where did Rogers come from? It started as a fictional musical featured in Disney Plus's Hawkeye, an idea from Jonathan Igla, the head writer of the miniseries. In the fictional Marvel universe, the show holds the place of something like Hamilton in ours and is referenced throughout the Hawkeye series. Interestingly, a real Broadway musical based on Captain America was in development in the 80s and never went anywhere. The song Save the City, the fictional musical's alleged Act 1 closer, was the first written for the still fictional musical. It was written by the iconic Mark Shaman and Scott Whitman of Hairspray fame and shown in performance as a mid-credits scene in the Hawkeye series finale. It was then released as a digital single in November 2021. That number was performed live during the 2022 D23 Expo, and the buzz from that performance led to Disney Live Entertainment beginning the commission process of a full version of the musical, with the announcement in February 2023 that a one-act version of the show would premiere in Disney's California Adventure. You can listen to the cast recording of the one-act musical on Apple Music, Spotify, wherever you get your music, and it was released in September during the strike. Honestly, it's a lot of fun. I listened to it for the first time. I knew Save the City. I didn't really know anything else. After my first listen, my current standout is What You Missed, which is sung by Nick Fury. The score includes Shaman and Whitman's Save the City, along with Star Spangled Man by Menken and Zippel. Hello, two of my faves, as we know, from the film Captain America: The First Avenger, plus 5 original songs by Christopher Lennertz and lyrics by Jordan Peterson, who also directed the piece, Lennertz, and Alex Karoukas, with a book by Hunter Bell of Title of Show fame.
Oh, wow.
The Broadway musicale. The show utilizes the Starkettes as a Greek chorus and focuses largely on Steve's romance with Peggy Carter. So here's what I want to talk about with you. I have a couple of questions. So first of all, simple. What should Disney put in the Hyperion Theater next? Something that can run for several years, or something that's more of a limited run like this? Encanto? Wish? Something else? In a connecting question to this, social media buzz feels like a big reason that Rogers was developed. Are there any other culty fan favorite pieces of Disney that kind of deserve the same chance?
Yeah. Ratatouille the musical.
Oh my God, yes!
Come on, Emily Jacobson.
Absolutely.
I think what needs to happen with the Hyperion is that they need to have a more timeless show, and be that Frozen or something like that. Something that is in lockstep. They've got it. They can do it, whatever. But then also be able to have set periods of time, like maybe twice a year, kind of like a season where they can do limited runs. Because people were making trips to go to Disneyland just to see this. People don't make trips to go to Disneyland just to see a show at the Hyperion. But people were doing that because it was limited and because it was something buzzy and zany and crazy. So I think if they allotted or maybe even once a year, once a year from this time to this time, Frozen is out, and we load in a limited run show. I think that would make the Hyperion a place that people want to go to the park to see what's happening at the Hyperion. And I think Ratatouille the musical should be the next one that they do.
Oh, yes. Is Disney using Hyperion shows as short form tryouts for full length musical development? Like, is this a conscious thing? Because in the Hyperion previously were Aladdin and Frozen. Granted, these things went through major changes when they came to Broadway. But still, is this a conscious model, and is this a smart model?
I don't think it's a conscious model. To be honest, I think it just happens to be a coincidence there, but I think it's one that's helpful. I mean, they kind of do that already with the cruise ships.
True.
So like maybe the Hyperion is a good place for them to try out things that are just wishful thinking.
Yeah.
Like it's not even like, we wouldn't even call it an out of town tryout. It's more of like a concept test, like a
like
proof of concept.
Proof of concept,
essentially.
right? Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that that's a bad thing, but I also think allowing themselves one time a year, kind of like how a real theater would have a season, allowing one time a year where they could do a limited run of something high risk and wacky and possibly social media buzzy, like,
And
I don't think that's a bad thing.
It could fill in. It could be at a time of year when there's no Oogie Boogie Bash. There's nothing for the holidays, and it's like a new pull for people.
Yeah, like the springtime ahead of the summer season or whatever. You do your
spring
limited
musical.
Stuff. Like your spring musical.
I love it.
Okay. Speaking of rats and animals and things like that, the last thing that I'm going to talk about is Zootopia in the parks. So over in Shanghai, Zootopia, aka the city of Zootopia, is the newest themed land in Shanghai Disneyland, and it's located in Fantasyland between 100 Acre Goods and the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. It opened on December 20th, 2023. This land features 2 new attractions, a restaurant, meet and greet with Nick Wilde and Judy Hopps, as well as 2 shops, Fashions by Frou Frou and Zootopia Market. The restaurant is Jumbo's Cafe, kind of like the ice cream parlor that's going to be aboard the Treasure. And this is a whimsical dessert shop run by an elephant, as seen in the film, that features treats of all sizes like the chocolate marshmallow, Officer Clawhauser's Big Donut, carrot-shaped ginger-flavored ice cream, and the Jumbo Pop from the film.
Oh.
One of the attractions is Disney Zootopia Comes Alive. So I pulled just like the description from the Disney parks, like stuff of like what this is. So guests get to experience the world of Zootopia in a new way as they watch the characters from the film come to life on stage. The show features live actors, animatronics, special effects, and music from the film's soundtrack. Windows come alive as you witness the daily interactions between our beloved Zootizens. From chatting and taking selfies to meditating, the whole street will be filled with the wonderfully unique atmosphere of Zootopia. So it kind of is like evoking like the Muppets in the windows and Liberty. Like these are animatronics that are in windows throughout the city that like will come out and like as part of the show. It's really freaking cool. The show follows the story of the film as Judy Hopps, a rookie bunny cop, teams up with Nick Wilde, a con artist fox, to solve a mystery that threatens the harmony of Zootopia. Along the way, they encounter various characters and locations from the film, such as Flash, the fastest sloth in the Department of Mammal Vehicles, Mr. Big, the most feared crime boss in Tundra Town, and Gazelle, the pop star who inspires hope and unity in Zootopia. The show also features some original scenes and songs that are not in the film, such as a musical number by Yax, the leader of the Mystic Springs Oasis, and a comedy sketch by Clawhauser, the cheetah officer who loves donuts, and Gazelle. It ends with a grand finale where all the characters join Gazelle on stage to perform her hit song Try Everything and celebrate the diversity and harmony of Zootopia. I'm all in.
Wow.
The last attraction is Zootopia Hot Pursuit, which is a motion simulator and trackless dark ride akin to Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway and Remy's Ratatouille Adventure with audio animatronics galore. It's not heavily reliant on projections. It's the real deal, baby. Guests get to become a part of the Zootopia Police Department as a rookie police officer. This is set after the timeline of the film, and residents of Zootopia are gearing up for a big concert celebrating Zootopia Day. And the concert features Gazelle, because of course it does. Guests walk into the ZPD for orientation and are greeted by Officer Clawhauser, this incredible animatronic.
Audio animatronic, oh my God.
Then, as guests visit the ZPD prison area, an alarm sounds and everyone is whisked away to an emergency briefing delivered by an animatronic Chief Bogo, which is equally as incredible. We're not just doing screens and stuff like that for your safety briefings and everything. They're doing animatronics.
Yes.
They then learn that Gazelle has been kidnapped by Bellwether, who somehow escaped from prison right before the big concert. So soon, the new rookie police officers are assigned to back up Officer Judy Hopps and her partner Nick Wilde, who is now officially a police officer. So guests join them in an action-filled police chase that takes guests across Zootopia's various terrains, including Tundra Town, Sahara Square, Mystic Springs Oasis, the Rainforest District, and the Savannah Central, all while chasing Bellwether and her gang to save Gazelle. The animatronics in this land are among the best in the world. After the opening ceremony in a media sharing event, Duke Weaselton joined Josh D'Amaro on stage. This animatronic pushed a cart across the stage by itself and then swung himself up from the ground using a window shade to stand eye level on the cart with Josh. Seriously, go watch a YouTube video of this. It's unreal. It shouldn't be possible.
It's like chilling almost.
Yeah. The entire area of Zootopia has been incredibly well received, although some folks online said it seems smaller than they once thought. Regardless, it has been a huge success, with many people clamoring for this to make its way to the States.
Mm-hmm.
Which leads me to this other thing that happened at Destination D23. At Destination D23, it was announced that It's Tough to Be a Bug, the 9-minute 3D show in the Tree of Life in Animal Kingdom, would be replaced with an all-new 3D show inspired by Zootopia. The current concept for the new Zootopia experience has guests visiting the different biomes you only glimpse in the film, traveling along with Judy Hopps, Nick Wilde, and other characters. Imagineers are currently finalizing the concept, and more details will be coming in the future. According to blog Mickey, a Clawhauser animatronic, most likely based on the one in Shanghai, will be a part of the attraction. I'm thinking like where the Hopper animatronic was.
God,
that probably might be Clawhauser. So I have two questions. When new lands are built in different parks, it seems that there is a gut reaction to see them recreated in some form or fashion in many other parks around the world. Do you think that this takes away from the incentive to visit other parks and makes each theme park feel specific? Or is the accessibility of being able to see that closer to home, does that outweigh that, the specificity?
It's tricky because the reality is so many of these things I want to see in the parks in Asia. It's just a trip to Asia is just, I cannot afford it right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like I'm lazy and I don't want to take the long flight. I just can't afford it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I feel like by viewing it as like, well, we got to incentivize people to get, out of the U.S. parks. Well, it's not that simple. I'm also all for variety. Like when I went to Disneyland Paris, there was enough that was different that it was exciting for me. But I also felt a little bit disappointed in the amount of things that were the same, that were reminiscent of Disneyland and Disney and Magic Kingdom. So I don't have an answer to this really, because I'm like, I'm dying to get over there and I can't, and it's hurting my feelings.
I'm thinking as you're answering this question, I'm starting to unlock, I think, where this question came from. And I think it's like, what is the difference between making sure that every park has a Galaxy's Edge versus making sure every park has a Zootopia land? And I think it's kind of what we touched on earlier of the longevity.
Mm-hmm.
Having Galaxy's Edge at every single park doesn't hurt the park and take away from the specificity, because otherwise the place would be flooded all the time and nobody would be able to see it. There's such demand for it. Whereas like a Zootopia themed land, would it make sense to bring it over to the States? Yes. If we had it in Disneyland, would we also need to have it in Florida? I don't think so. And so I'm like, I think that's where demand probably comes to play. And so my second question is, what would you say Zootopia would add to Animal Kingdom? And what do you think, if any, it would take away? We sort of had this conversation a little bit earlier, but now I want to put it back on you.
Yeah. It would add a sense of whimsy. I think parts of Dino Land, Chester and Hester's Dinorama, attempted this and failed. So I think Animal Kingdom can be, in a way that I love, a bit serious. And so this would add a fun, lighter touch. And in some ways, I do feel like it continues the original thrust of Animal Kingdom, because I like playing around with the idea of, okay, we didn't get Beastly Kingdom, we didn't get these mythical creatures, but it's like, what if there's a reality where animals run the world, where animals have power and jobs and cities like humans? I think playing around with some sort of fantasy, it fills the void of playing around with a fantastical element of animals.
Right. And then also the reality where it's like they live in a similar world to what we live in, and they have the same problems that we have. The only difference is they're animals.
Right. And yet, I feel like that's also what it would take away from Animal Kingdom.
Yeah.
Because they are so humanoid. Like I said, Zootopia is a movie about prejudice and very human interactions, that I think that focus isn't, at the same time, isn't on the animal, isn't on the nature. There are some ways in which you could argue that it's elevating Animal Kingdom, but I think it would tip over into becoming too center stage. Whereas this attraction, I can feel it maybe working. I can feel it maybe elevating rather than taking over. But if we had Zootopia Land, the land and the idea of animals driving cars takes over.
I think where Zootopia works in Animal Kingdom is the concept of biomes, because that is the thing about Zootopia that is not inherently human. That's like the naturalistic thing of certain animals can only exist in certain climates and things like that. So to have that in Discovery Island as like sort of like a central hub to explain why you might only be seeing animals in different places, like, well, these animals need to be in the savannah, and that's in Africa. So that's why you're only going to see these giraffes over here and not in the Asia section. I feel like that could work really well. But at the same time, I'm also like, you could also tell that story from Rafiki's Planet Watch.
Yeah.
Which is why I think Rafiki's Planet Watch needs to be Zootopia. Use the train ride to explain, like, have like a story as you go through the train ride out to Rafiki's Planet Watch, and then have your petting zoo thing, learn about that. Because then also, like, if it's more accessible for kids, like, it adds that whimsical element without talking down to them in the way that I think Chester and Hester's thing did. Like, you can engage with it for your kids. But if you're like an adult who doesn't need to engage with something that might feel a little bit more whimsical, you don't have to. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and then that way it won't mess with the aesthetics of Animal Kingdom that bringing in this more whimsical thing could do.
Yeah, I'm just kind of sad that A Bug's Life is now just being wiped out of every single park everywhere.
I know.
Like, it's kind of a shame. But I do think that Zootopia will add something into that center place if, as it says right now, the plan is to move forward with talking about biomes and habitat.
Okay, this is it. And this is the one piece of news that's not parks related. So just a little something to spice it up at the end. And that is the release of the Disney Lorcana game. On August 8th, Disney released, through Ravensburger, the company responsible for Villainous and all of its expansions, Lorcana, its first foray into the world of trading card games. So think the Disney version of Magic the Gathering or Pokemon. The first chapter was the name of the inaugural card set, with Rise of the Floodborn following in November, and Into the Inklands set to release on March 8th of this year. 4 sets are scheduled to be released each year. Newbies to the game can learn to play with smaller starter decks. So I want to read you the intro from the official website because I couldn't say it any better than this. We're building a world here. A swirl of colorful starlight appears, growing brighter and brighter until it is all you can see. When the burst of light subsides, you find yourself in a wondrous new place. Welcome to the Great Illuminary, the center of a magical realm called Lorcana. The Illuminary summoned you here because of your powerful imagination. You follow a pulsing line of light through curving hallways and numerous rooms to emerge into a vast atrium. A mechanism there towers over an open book. Sparkling down from above is a stream of colorful story stars, each containing fragments of Disney stories. Nearby, a unique tool catches your eye. It's an ink caster, and when you pick it up, it feels both exciting and familiar. Instinctively, you hold it high above the open book. Magical ink pulsing with energy flows through the mechanism and combines with the light from a story star on a page of the lore book in front of you, creating an image of a Disney character. With the power of your ink caster, the image rises off the page. This is a glimmer, a new version of the character that only exists in this realm. As an Illumineer, you can create glimmers of characters and items to add to the lore of Lorcana, a treasure that must be preserved and protected at all costs. Soon, other Illumineers across the globe will be called to the aid of Lorcana. You'll summon glimmers to quest with you as you search for missing lore in a race against time. Only together can you protect this wondrous realm from threats.
Huh.
So there's a lot there. There's a lot of story happening.
Yeah.
So to break it down in a really simple way, there are 3 main card types in this game. Characters, which speaks for itself, items like Rapunzel's frying pan, for example, and actions like Maleficent's dragonfire or songs. Into the Inklands, which is the set that's coming out in March, will introduce a new card type, locations. In the game, Illumineers, which is us, who are playing the game, use 6 magical inks to summon glimmers of Disney characters: Amber, Amethyst, Emerald, Ruby, Sapphire, and Steel. Characters with something in common share an ink type. So, for example, Amethyst is for sorcerers, sages, and animated objects and includes Elsa and the Evil Queen. I never really got into Pokemon cards. I don't really know Magic the Gathering. So I'm embarrassed to admit that I was reading a little bit about gameplay and I was overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So here is what I want to know. I have 2 questions. Let's start with this one.
Okay.
Does this game seem like it has longevity, or will this be something that fans will dump their money into and then kind of have fall off a la Disney Infinity? And will this be too in-depth or complicated for folks who love Disney but aren't familiar with other trading card games?
I think that this game has potential for longevity because it feels like it's talking up as opposed to talking down to players. It seems like it's using systems that are very similar to a Dungeons and Dragons type feel with the way that it's done. Also, I mean, Ravensburger, they know what they're doing.
Very true.
So I think this has potential as long as it keeps not trying to dumb itself down. Because the people who are going to be the way that I got into Pokemon cards when I was younger was I was just collecting them because I thought that they looked good. I didn't really
I never
really
played.
play the game.
Yeah.
Is this going to be too ambitious for people who don't? I mean, I just think I'm a little bit too out of touch the world of trading cards and card games like this in particular, because the people who go hard for these types of games, they go hard for this. And I heard a lot of buzz around Lorcana when it was coming out. People got very, very excited for it. So the people who love Disney but aren't necessarily trading card people, I think the closest that they will probably become to this are collectors of the cards. like casual collectors as opposed to the actual players. I think this is almost like an instance of something being for people who like games and trading card games specifically. So like I think it may not be trying to find a very far-reaching audience. It may actually be something that is for a specific niche while also being something that could be a collector's item to capture the periphery audiences that aren't going to actually play. So in some ways I think it probably could be very smart. I mean, to be honest, you read that description, now I'm like,
well,
do
that's
I
my
need to go get
problem
some
too.
Lorcana cards?
No, that's my problem too. Is I'm like, I can't really sit here and justify spending money on this, but I'm interested.
Yeah.
But I'm like, who am I gonna play with? And I don't even know where to begin on learning how to play. So to finish it out was just a fun question. Disney seems to be coming out with their version of every piece of pop culture. Streaming service, fantasy book series, and now they're getting into the world of trading card games. What would make sense for them to create the Disney version of next? What piece of pop culture?
I think in a weird way, one of the things that they're missing is a competition series, like a reality competition series.
Ooh.
People have been getting really into, like, I think of like Squid Game, the competition.
Uh-huh.
And I'm wondering, or like people are really into like the baking, like Bake Off or Nailed It and things like that. And I'm wondering if there is like a Disney centered reality competition show that could be there. Because like they have Disney Fairy Tale Weddings and they have some of the docu-series and things like that, but they don't really have like reality of like, Disney has arguably one of the largest fan bases of anything in the world. And at the same time, I feel like we don't really see them. Like Disney doesn't really like showcase them in a way. Maybe that's a good thing.
They're
Who knows?
hiding us on purpose.
but I could definitely see them going more into like reality TV kind of stuff with Disney. Like, could that be like a race to figure out to like make a film and then Disney will produce it, or like design a ride sort of thing? Like I think of also what was that one show on Netflix where it combined engineering and baking?
Oh, yeah.
Like that. I could see them doing something where it's like Imagineering and like another like kind of crazy thing and like combining them together. I could see
them
doing that.
A game show like Legends of the Hidden Temple, but Disney.
Yeah, it could be that.
Like inspired by the Kingdom Keepers or something.
Yeah. But I don't know why my brain went there. Maybe it's because I'm watching Real Housewives right now. And so
I like that. I like that.
Reality TV. But I'm like, I think reality TV is like a part of pop culture that they have. Because, I mean, Disney's kind of in every bit of pop culture. I kind of want to see them do like The Amazing Race, but Disney version. Like, I would do that with you.
Right.
Where like you get like a clue that's inspired from a Disney movie and then you have to go like find the thing that it's like.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that. Like a giant Disney scavenger hunt.
Ooh. See that I can
do
see
that for my birthday.
I was gonna say, number one, this sounds like something that you're actually
Disney escape
do.
rooms. Disney escape rooms.
Disney escape rooms. They could put those. They could take all of the spaces in the malls across America where there were Disney stores and put a Disney escape room.
You know, Disney theme restaurants.
Oh, we are who we are.
I'll just keep saying it. We are who we are. But no, reality TV, escape rooms, scavenger hunts, and theme restaurants.
I love.
That's the parts of pop culture we're waiting for you, Disney.
Love it.
So hopefully that helped you all catch up with some of the exciting parks and other kind of news that happened. And get our sort of like deep thoughts about it.
Yes.
So if you liked what you heard, please remember to hit follow or subscribe wherever you're listening to the podcast. That way all of our episodes download to your device and you don't miss out on anything. And then this is that moment. If you didn't do it already, you're going to tap 5 stars and you're going to leave a written review. You're just going to say a couple things because that will help other people find the podcast. It gets us seen in the search results. It could be the difference between someone scrolling past and someone saying, you know what, I'll give them a try and I'll hit play and then discover that this is their favorite podcast that they didn't know existed. So thank you so much for taking the time to do just a little bit to help us get seen.
In a similar way, following us on social media is so helpful. We are at Poor Unfortunate Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Threads. And listen, if you're not a social media person, make sure that you hit subscribe to the podcast, because otherwise you're not going to know when we're coming back and when we're releasing an episode. So just do that. And if you want even more Poor Unfortunate podcasts in your life, please join our private Facebook group, the Poor Unfortunate Fam. As I always say, we've got over 100 folks in the group now. We talk about the episode. Our last episode was Ariel versus Moana. We got some really interesting thoughts in the fam about that, and I loved hearing them.
We got some essays in the fam.
Yes, we did, and they were great. Thank you, Anne. It really had me thinking on an even deeper level than we got to in the episode, which is exactly what we want the fam to do. And we would love to meet you and just like know who's out there listening. So even if you're not on Facebook a lot, just join the fam just so we can at least say hi to you, and it would just make our day.
And if you're looking for merch, the Poor Unfortunate shop is open. It's poorunfortunatepodcast.com/shop. T-shirts, water bottles, all kinds of stuff. If you want that Dragons Are Forever, Navi Are Not t-shirt, that's there. So, get your merch. And then, as I always say, it does take us a little bit of money to keep the podcast up and running and coming to you. We do have a PayPal account that is linked in the episode description, as well as the website links in our social media accounts. Truly, anything that you have to spare goes a long way for us. It could be $1, $5, $10, more than that. It could be a one-time donation. It could be a monthly donation. It all just goes right back into the podcast, helping us keep it free and ad-free for the most part. And to all of our monthly donors, thank you so much. We would not be able to do this without you. Okay, that's it. We got one more episode before we finally end this season.
And I can't wait for it.
So until then, when we can put a nail in this fucker, Beluga Sabruga.